Have you ever wondered why certain feelings cling to you, no matter how much you analyze or understand them? Why the same kind of relationships keep circling back into your life? Or why there's always a part of you that feels like you're either too much or never enough? These patterns don't begin in adulthood. Their roots reach far back, hidden beneath the surface, often invisible but powerful. Carl Jung believed that what remains unconscious from childhood will continue to influence and shape us until we make it conscious. And many times what shapes us isn't a memory, it's a lie. A lie we didn't choose but absorbed. And until we uncover that lie, it quietly writes the story of our worth, our behavior, even our identity. Before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe to Mental Dose and join our Telegram group for early access to powerful videos on personal and spiritual growth. Now let's go deep. The hidden pattern. Growing up doesn't erase childhood, it preserves it. It becomes a structure within us, a psychological blueprint that influences how we relate to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. Jung didn't just see childhood as a phase, but as a symbolic force, what he called the child archetype, a living image of memory, vulnerability, and raw potential. For many of us, that inner child is still stuck in survival mode. From the very beginning, we adapt. We attune ourselves to the emotional weather of our homes. If love was earned, we learned to perform. If feelings weren't safe, we learned to numb or hide them. The nervous system didn't wait for language. It responded to tone, touch, withdrawal, or chaos. And those responses hardened into patterns, into roles that feel like us, but are really just our protection. These strategies became so automatic, we rarely question them. They feel like our personality. But neuroscience now confirms what Jung understood. The brain wires itself around early emotional experiences. A child who learned to stay silent to avoid conflict doesn't just make a choice, they become silence. That's why real growth feels painful, because you're not just letting go of behaviors. You're disentangling your identity from patterns that once kept you safe. And while those adaptations helped us survive, they often come at the cost of authenticity. Jung called this internal split the beginning of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress to be accepted. And it's in this very shadow that the deepest lie starts to grow. Let's go deeper. The two voices within. To emotionally survive, we crafted a version of ourselves the world could accept. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to fit in, to be praised, or simply to avoid being abandoned. But every time we put that mask on, we bury another part of us, our anger, our needs, our raw truth. The persona isn't false, it's just not whole. It's who we had to become to navigate childhood with the least amount of pain. The danger? We start confusing that mask with our actual self. And so we grow into adults who feel burnt out, disconnected, or unsure of who we really are underneath all the performing, pleasing, or pretending. What's most heartbreaking is that these patterns don't feel like defense, they feel like identity. The child who had to suppress their rage becomes easygoing. The child who had to ignore their sadness becomes strong. And the world claps for these versions of us. But underneath, there's an invisible strain, because these roles aren't rooted in freedom, they're rooted in fear. Jung taught that when we lose connection to the whole of who we are, we also lose contact with the deeper self, the compass within. And instead of living authentically, we begin to live in response to others' expectations. This gap becomes the soil in which the lie takes root, not spoken, but deeply felt. A belief that hides beneath our confidence, beneath our accomplishments, even beneath our self-doubt. And now it's time to uncover it. The ugliest lie. The most damaging lie you were taught wasn't spoken out loud. It wasn't a sentence, it was a pattern, felt repeatedly in everyday moments. And that lie was this: you, as you are not enough to be loved. Not because someone told you directly, but because love, comfort, and safety were conditional. You were rewarded for being agreeable, punished for expressing too much emotion, ignored when you were hurting, celebrated only when you succeeded. Over time, the message crystallized: I must become someone else to be accepted. This belief didn't just lodge itself emotionally, it planted itself biologically. Your nervous system still holds it. You hesitate to speak your truth. You overgive in relationships. You shrink yourself. You chase perfection and fear being a burden. Every one of these behaviors is linked to the root wound. My worth depends on what I do, not on who I am. Healing isn't just about remembering this lie. It's about reclaiming every piece of yourself you had to abandon in order to survive. If this video is helping you connect the dots, share it with someone who needs it. And if you'd like to support this work, click the thanks button below. Let's keep going. The real block. Carl Jung didn't believe healing was about fixing what's broken. He believed healing was becoming whole again. In his view, healing isn't about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about recovering your true self. He warned that many people today aren't suffering from a lack of tools, but a lack of meaning. Many emotional issues don't stem from dysfunction, but from disconnection. Disconnection from our feelings, from our truth, from the vastness of who we really are beyond the mask. True healing, for Jung, meant coming home to the self, the deep center that contains both shadow and light. And this kind of healing doesn't make you into someone new. It helps you remember who you were before you had to forget. The process of individuation. Jung's word for this journey is about slowly and bravely integrating all the parts of ourselves we left behind: the wild child, the sensitive one, the angry one, the one who cried too loud or felt too deeply. These parts aren't flaws. They're the keys to your wholeness. We begin to heal when we stop fighting with them. When we stop trying to be good and start being real. That's how you unravel the lie, not by thinking about it, but by living differently, by allowing yourself to say no, to rest, to cry, to express, to take up space. This path isn't easy, but it's true. Every time you choose honesty over performance, presence over perfection, you're breaking the chain. You're choosing the real you, not the mask, not the role, but the full living soul beneath it. The deepest wound. Your worth is not something you earn. It never was. And the ugliest lie begins to dissolve the moment you name it. The moment you realize that the wound wasn't about you being flawed, but about others not knowing how to meet your full humanity. That was never your fault. But healing, that's your responsibility. So here's the invitation. Don't carry the lie alone. If something in this video resonated, share it. Leave a comment and let others know what part spoke to you. Your story might remind someone else that they're not broken. They're awakening. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Mental Dose. We go deep here. No fluff. Just real, grounded wisdom for the journey back to yourself. You deserve to be whole. You always did. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.